I greet you, and welcome back, everyone, to The Angry Chicken, the podcast about Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft. I'm Garrett Weinzer, and with me tonight is Willie Dills Gregory. Hey, Dills.
Hey, what's up, man? It's just it's a hoedown bro down again, right?
It is a hoedown bro down. It's also a hat cast. We're both wearing hats. Last time
right.
you were wearing rocking the man bun. I'm known for having a different haircut every week, but tonight we're both rocking hats.
You know, before I had really long hair, I was like, yeah, the man bun, that's stupid. Now I realize that's just pulling my hair back.
Yeah,
that's just comfortable, man.
yeah. There's certain things. It's like, well, it's trendy, but it's also comfortable. You know.
I mean, I get the one that's like on the very top of the head is like kind of a super douchey look, but when I just get annoyed with having my hair all over my neck, I just pull it back in a little thing, you know?
Yeah, little thing.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
I started wearing a lot of hair, like a hairband. I started stealing Katie's hairbands when my hair
bands.
When,
all right.
When mine was down to my shoulders, like 4 years ago, it just got too darn hot in Florida.
Dude,
I was like, screw it.
Own it, brother.
It's great. It's wonderful.
That's what hoedown bro downs are all about, man. We just tell each other, hey, it's fine. We're all fine.
No Hearthstone talk on today's episode. It's going to be strictly manscaping advice.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyways, for those wondering, Jocelyn is absent today because it is Canadian Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to all our Canadian listeners. And you can return Jocelyn at any time. Please send her back. We miss her.
That is true, yeah. But she's only going to miss one episode, and yeah, I get it. Canadian Thanksgiving, what do they celebrate? Like that they shook hands with the Indians and didn't, kill them and take their land, or what? How does it work over there? We have a different thing over here completely.
Wow, that went real south, real fast.
I'm sorry, buddy.
I'm
sorry.
You're right. I'm sure it's a lot of apologizing and being very polite.
Yeah, they just said, sorry, you can leave America and come up here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, anyways, before we get into Hearthstone talk, I just wanted to congratulate you, man. I saw your spread in the golf magazine with Fat Mike about MGA. That's so cool.
I don't have one here, but I have one upstairs. But yeah, so basically there's a story about the MGA. We did an interview, me, John, the co-founders, and Fat Mike was along for the interview portion as well. And then there's bunch of cool pictures and stuff too, so it was a lot of fun. And apparently their circulation is like pretty large, so we're expecting a big influx of people, so this is good.
As someone who was kind of raised on NoFX, it's really strange to see one of my podcast hosts in a photo shoot with Fat Mike,
just hanging out with Fat Mike, looking at putts, trying to figure out how to
one of the cooler, weird, like 2 times removed to stardom things that have happened in my life. So congrats on that. Everyone go check out Golf Magazine. Yeah,
it's Golf Magazine, not Golf Digest. Because everybody was like, I was looking at Golf Digest, I don't see it. And I'm like, no, there's Golf Magazine, and then there's also Golf Digest. We're in Golf Magazine. And golf.com, I think, also has it on their site as well. So, yeah, go check it out. I purchased like 3 of them because I was like, oh, I got to go find one. And I found it, and they had like 7 or 8, and my first thought was like, oh, I should do that thing where I buy them all out, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, I don't need 8 of these. So I just got 3, but then I went up to the counter, and the guy at the counter was like, oh, do you know somebody in the magazine? I was like, yeah, I do, actually. And he goes like, do I know who they are? And I was like, well, we just met. And then it was like, we had a little funny moment there.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, felt real cool in the Safeway there for a second.
Oh, that's lovely. That's like when I go to the local game store to buy one of my own card games that I worked on. That's always fun.
Exactly.
Except
not to brag, but
except no one ever asks if you know someone in the game. So I'm just kind of sitting there like an a-hole, just like, I really want to tell this cash register dude that I worked on this game, but he's not going to ask, and I'm not going to be that guy.
Yeah,
so.
And that would be weird, right?
It would be. Hey, random gentleman who I don't know. I mean, we meet every now and then. You sign me in for my Magic pre-release tournaments, but other than that, you don't really know me. I worked on this.
But I mean, if he's a guy who knows about Magic and you know about, and you made a card game, that's cool. I don't know. Yeah. I don't think that would be that weird. Yeah. If you just walked up to random people on the street, then I think we got something weird going on.
Well, that's what I do about the Hearthstone podcast. I'm like, hey, I don't know, but you should think I'm cool. I do a Hearthstone podcast, random person. And they're like, what's Hearthstone? And I go, oh yeah, I live in a retirement community. Wonderful.
Like, oh, you mean that game that it's like that Candy Crush game on my phone?
Oh, Oh, that's like back in the
There's
day.
a lot of people who play the game that way, though.
I'm aware.
Like I find out all the time, like, oh, my aunt downloaded that. And she's playing it. She really likes that hunter deck that has the what is it, the alligator in it, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right. So you're still playing the innkeeper, probably.
Is it very hard for you not to just kind of peel back the layer and just kind of go nuts? Like, oh man!
Like, first of all, you got to get rid of these novice engineers. These are terrible. Like,
crazy Aunt Linda, let me tell you how to min-max your free-to-play mage deck. Let's do this. Like, oh no, your curve's all off, and your aunt's just going, what? A curve? Huh?
I don't know. I just put them on the board and then I drag them over the face, and then I win or I don't.
Oh, wonderful. Well, with all that out of the way, Dills, I think let's dive into the news.
Good news, everyone!
It's light news week, but that doesn't mean that the couple things we're going to talk about are light. Dude, the America's Championship, the qualifier for the Hearthstone World Championship, it's concluded. It's done. Yep. It's over, and you were there for it.
I was there. We now know all 16 of the players that are going to be at BlizzCon. This one, I guess it was exciting just because of being there. I mean, I was excited about all the other ones, but also, of course, like this is our region, right? So these are the players we're probably the most familiar with, and it was incredibly fun to be there. There's some interesting choices in some of their decks, and a lot of really, really great games. Just some games that came down to like sick top decks, some really, really well thought out turns by a lot of the players, and in the end, we saw the guy who played the best actually win the whole tournament. And if everybody doesn't know, is Purple, who is no longer on Archon. He's on, what team is he on now? I can't even remember. He's on like a French team now.
It should be in the
Gamers Origin is the team he's on now. But yeah, he played fantastic. So did all of the top four actually, and a lot of the other guys did too. But came down to the guys I think a lot of people were predicting, and then this guy Nias, who somehow like, came out of nowhere.
I was just about to say, yeah, because it's fun. I'm like, Nias, who I don't know anything about this guy. And immediately I do what I always do. I go to liquidheart.com, I go to Liquipedia, and I pull up the brackets for the America's Championship, and I click on the Nias link, and it goes, there is currently no text in this page. You can search for this page title in other pages or search the related logs. Ah, damn it, Liquipedia.
There's nothing about this guy.
Right.
So he got in through the last chance qualifier, which is people who had 2 or more points, right? So that's like this big tournament with just a ton of people in it. He was able to get in through that, and then once he got in through that, then he made it in through the next phase, and then here with this top 8, he actually was able to make it in the top 4. And it's kind of weird because it is 8 players and top 4, so half the field goes to BlizzCon, but it's also a North American championship in its own right too, right? So
yeah,
Purple is now the North American champion for 2015, and he got $10,000 and big accolades. So I think it was his first real big victory. He has won some tournaments in the past. He's done well in some others, but he is known as the guy who coached Firebat last year and was kind of the go-to guy on Team Archon for, let's talk about deck choices, let's talk about mulligans, let's talk about all that as the players, and then he prepared the rest of the players to go off and play. And he didn't actually go play.
Yeah, I mean, his last big kind of splash in a tournament scene was taking 3rd place in the Pinnacle 4 all the way back in, April?
I think, yeah. And since he's left Archon, he's done a lot more playing. But yeah, at that time, I don't think there was anything else.
Yeah. Right. Like, so you bring up a really good point. Like, myself included, a lot of people just kind of like, oh, he's Firebat's stream buddy and he's Firebat's coach. Well, now Firebat isn't even in the tournament anymore now, and now Purple is taking 1st place in the qualifiers. So I don't know. This is exciting. This is the kind of stuff you kind of hope to see. Not that I'm saying like I didn't want to see Firebat in the finals, but it's exciting to like Nias. No one knows anything about him. He's going to BlizzCon. Purple, last year we were just talking about him as this kind of a side player, this coach. And here he is winning the qualifier.
Yeah. No, it's really, really great stories. All of the guys had really great stories. There was a 14-year-old kid from Brazil who was also in the he didn't make it through. He ended up getting eliminated. But yeah, Mold Gel, he had some really interesting decks. He had this incredibly slow Paladin that ran like just the card True Heart and all this stuff. And it even had Oh my god, what's the card? The 4/6 that can't be targeted by spells and hero powers. Um,
Oh,
it's like it's never in the meta anymore. Actually, Firebat had it in his championship druid deck last year. It's something knight. But anyway, he was playing that in the deck. Like he was playing all sorts of weird stuff. And I really enjoyed watching the Brazilian style of play, which was very different. They seemed to play a lot of a more slow control style game. And it didn't quite work out for them because the American players are Spectral Knight. Thanks, Nick Rogers.
I was just about to say, I was looking it up on Hearthhead quietly while you were
yeah.
you were
but
talking.
I mean, they played a much more like control heavy style of game. And even when they played like maybe this was where some of the mistakes were made, is the lack of aggression. Because even sometimes when he was playing like Hunter, he was just not hitting face enough and stuff like that. So it's a different meta. Who knows? Maybe everybody plays a little slower there. But those guys were awesome to hear their stories. And of course, the 14-year-old kid coming from Brazil, getting flown into San Francisco to play for $10,000 is just awesome, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're talking about, you want to hear a good story. That is it.
Yeah. I do want to talk a little bit about the venue because, okay, so this venue to me is a place that
it's near and dear to your heart.
I go to quite a bit, yeah. I go there for game nights. And actually, if anybody's around in the Bay Area tomorrow, Jab is still in town because Hearthlytics, all the guys from his team Hearthlytics, RJ and the other guys, they're based in San Francisco. So Jab is going to stick around. I think he's from Indianapolis, or that's where he lives anyway. But, he got flown in for this stuff, and he's staying around a little bit. And he's going to come to the Foundry tomorrow and do like a little meet and greet. So if you guys anybody wants to meet Jab in person in a much more casual setting than the tournament itself. The tournament itself, you could walk up to the players and hang out with them, no problem.
Right.
But they were a little bit on edge and not necessarily in the mood to chit chat.
You got your head in the game. I'm sure the place was just packed.
It was okay. So this is what I'm going to say. It was very crowded at first. Then people started to leave because it was hot as hell in there. And they didn't have chairs. Everybody was standing around these barrels, and it was just awkward. Eventually, people just started sitting on the floor, and it just kind of made this like lethargic kind of feeling in the room. And like,
hey guys, like really awesome local concerts, where you're all just expected to stand and have a good time.
Sure.
Well, let's do something that's a lot more low energy. And
yeah. It was like all I wanted was just stools around the barrels, and it would have been awesome. Like it would have been perfect. You could have all the people would have been like filling up that space right in front of the screen because everybody was packed at the bar and the tables that were near the bar because they did have chairs.
Right.
But the barrels that were right out front, which was like the casters were right on the right hand side, and the big screen was right in front of you. That was like just a bunch of dudes laying on the floor, like just looking tired as hell. And I stood up the whole time because I was like, well, I guess I'll just do this.
I mean, what you're describing right there sounds wonderful because I've having gone to a lot of esports shows, it seems like it'd be really nice to lay down and watch some pro Hearthstone.
Sure, but not on like the dirty floor. Like
I know.
Give me a beanbag chair or something. But I mean, I just thought like this. I got what they were kind of going for, this like real kind of like casual taverny feel rather than what you got in EU, which was like a huge stadium full of people. This was a little bit more of an intimate, because the venue itself is intimate, but it just sucks to stand the whole time. It really does. And I think a lot of people would have stayed the entire night, but they ended up leaving because they just got tired of standing around. So I think that was a little bit of a misplay on the part of the venue, but everything else was amazing. I mean, the production value was amazing. The casting crew was incredible. I thought all of the casters did a fantastic job. Like guys like Raynad, no salt, just professional, awesome casting.
Yeah, I have a funny story about that too, because I had to catch up on it today. So I watched all of day 2 basically on the Twitch VOD because yesterday I was doing wedding prep all day long, and I fast forwarded a bit to watch because I'm like, oh yeah, I can just skip all the in between stuff. I just want to see the games. Let's go, because it's like a 7.5 hour VOD. And in the middle of the game, like I'm just listening to a new caster, and it wasn't even really registering with me, and I'm like, oh wait, that's Raynad.
Yeah.
And I thought he did just a bang up job.
Yeah, no, he did. Kibler was amazing. Robert Wing was awesome. Savitz, I actually got a chance to talk to him for a little bit. Talked to Savitz, talked to Kibler. I didn't get a chance to talk to Robert for a bit. I didn't get a chance to talk to like Raynad or Frodan or any of those guys, but they were incredibly busy. And I actually didn't. So on the first day I came and I watched, I think the last 4 matches of the day. And then I was just tired of standing and I got the hell out of there. And then on Sunday, we had a little bit to drink on Saturday night. Me and D-Day and a few other people.
You and D-Day, no way.
We played some Quiplash. It was awesome on stream. Yeah, Poop Truce 2015 for anybody who knows. So I just rolled in a little bit late on Sunday and just caught like the top 4 pretty much.
Right.
Because I was like, there's no way I can do this all day again. There's no way. So I just rolled in at the end. It was awesome to see like how it all went down, and like they had the players come out from like the entryway and like high five everybody on the way through, and then go up this spiral staircase. And there was like a lot of pomp and circumstance, and it was cool. Like it was really cool, and you could see the players were grinding as hard as these players can do. This meant a lot to them, and I think we got the best 4, the guys who played the best out of this group.
That's great, man. Was there anyone in particular you were sad to kind of see not make it? I was really hoping that Trump would make it through.
It's obviously sad that Trump didn't win, but he didn't. I don't think he played very well. It's not that he played badly. I just think that when you look at what the other guys did, the other guys just never made a misstep. Right? Yeah,
it did seem like he started to kind of slide back into his old play habits, where he's playing almost a little too safe.
Sure.
Just maybe reaching for value a little too much.
Yeah,
which was funny because I feel like 2 weeks ago you were here like, oh man, Trump's great. He's not like all value all the time. He's playing fast when he needs to.
Greedy. Yeah.
And
but a moment like this can he's worked so hard to go from a player who is not known as a great constructed player to one who now has proven that he is.
Right.
And maybe this was just such a big moment that the nerves kind of got to him a little bit, because it did seem like he was, he got a little unlucky too in a couple of certain spots. And when you get a little unlucky, sometimes you just kind of like tilt a little and you start to maybe not make the most optimal play every time. So that might have happened a little bit. I was really impressed with the guys who actually did get through. Like Hot Form lost early and had to battle his way back. Purple with the same story. He had to battle his way back. Jab and Nias just crushed through. They were the top seed once they got to the finals.
Yep.
And then it turned out that the guys who lost and had to battle back were the ones who ended up ultimately going to the finals together. Shout out to Jocelyn, all Canadian finals. Gotta throw that out there, I guess.
I was having just the best. I wish the 3 of us were like in a Skype call together, because I was having the best of listening to the casters just make Canadian joke after Canadian joke. I assume it's what it would be like to listen to our show if none of us hosted it.
I actually think this would be a cool thing once we all have a little more time on our plate and we're doing this more full time. Is when there's a big tournament, we just all get together and watch it on one of our streams. Like,
just do a recast or like live
just,
commentary.
We talk over it too. So like we listen to the casters, but we also interject some stuff as well. And
like a lot of gaming websites do that for E3, where they just talk over whatever the official stream is. And I don't see why we couldn't do that. That could be fun.
Yeah, live cast. Could be entertaining. The finals is Purple, Hot Form, Nias, and Jab. We're going to talk about one of the decks Jab brought, because he was the guy who brought, I thought, the craziest deck, which is the Casino Mage. But Purple and Hot Form, I think, were the 2 guys. Jab, I thought too. These are the guys I was expecting to do really well, and they did. They really they shined. They proved why they're the players to watch in North America, and I think we're going to get really good representation once it comes to the European group is insanely strong. The Chinese and Taiwan groups are kind of dark horses because we don't see them play very often, but we know that Pimping Ho and some of those guys are incredibly strong players. Kranich, obviously, but I think we're going to get just solid games all the way through. BlizzCon is shaping up to be amazing this year.
It's tough. This is I'm having like the best problems ever going to this BlizzCon because there's so many esports tournaments that I'm incredibly excited about.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough, dude. How are we gonna do this? Are we just gonna like run from Hearthstone to Heroes, and then try to catch like a little bit of StarCraft? I don't understand.
I don't know. And in there, I also we got to hit some panels, and
I know. Yeah.
A good thing we're all going. Maybe we can just split it up, and then like at our live BlizzCon show, we'll just have like, so what did you go to, Dills? Tell us about it.
Yeah,
and you'll
that
go,
might be the way.
And then we'll throw
honestly.
to Jocelyn, then we'll throw to me, and yeah. It'll be interesting. I mean, it's the same issue we have every year, but the last year was we mostly stuck to Hearthstone.
Yeah, well, Hearthstone was the new big thing. Obviously, the Heroes stuff was more of a just community tournament.
Right,
it
was
the
just
first time we had, But now there's a lot of Heroes teams where there's some storylines built up there. Obviously, Tempo Storm at Cloud9 is going to be really interesting to watch. So, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do, man. I don't know. I'm just going to be like a crazy person running from stage to stage, I guess. But whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah, but it's going to be a good time. So I guess actually real quick, before we move on, what did you think about the decks overall? Because I was really surprised to see how control heavy everyone's deck selections were, with the exception of a Patron Warrior here and there. There was a lot of control warrior, a lot of control paladin, a lot of mid-range hunter, which is even in terms of hunter slower.
So we saw I think one hybrid hunter. We saw a lot of handlock, a lot of druid.
Yeah.
But yeah, you actually only saw 2 patron decks.
Right.
So for all the bitching we did about patron when it came to this tournament, only 2 guys. But I will point this out: the 2 guys who ran patron decks ended up in the finals against each other.
Top 2 slots. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe there's something to that, and But I think it's a lot of people are targeting patron, and so that's why a lot of people chose not to run it. Because now you can't target it, and then of course other guys like Jab is a hunter specialist, so he's gonna more lean towards that end, and Hot Form plays patron, but he also he likes the tempo mage a lot too. So there was a lot of variety within the non-variety that we're seeing, so it didn't feel so bad.
Mm-hmm.
We saw some weird stuff. We saw. Let's see. So Moldgel had the cool paladin deck, Jab with Casino Mage. Purple had BGH in his patron and Black Knight in his druid. And Nias took out Twilight Drakes in favor of refreshment vendors in his handlock, which I thought was one of the craziest moves. I just was like, what? I guess, you can't silence a refreshment vendor, and in the mirror matchup, you can maybe take away their ability to play Molten Giants with a refreshment vendor, but it was such a bizarre move. I was very confused by that one, but he seemed to really believe in that tech choice. So there's some cool stuff.
Yeah, I loved seeing all the handlock. It was a really nice change of pace and mid-range and control paladin. I'm always happy to see that. So,
the handlock is funny because it is so popular, but you did see in the finals there was that game where Purple was playing Druid and Hot Form was playing Handlock, and he died on turn 4 because that could just happen sometimes.
Absolutely,
you just get a perfect innervate into whatever, and then he drew Savage Roar off the top, and Hot Form had just been sitting there tapping the entire time and doing nothing. And then he was just like, oh, well, I'm just dead. So that kind of stuff can happen with Handlock. And obviously it's a rough go against Hunter, but it is so damn strong against any other control deck, especially this demon variant everyone's running, that it makes a lot of sense to be in there. And the games are very intricate and a lot of interesting turns.
Yeah. I had a really good time watching it. So, backpedaling to BlizzCon a bit, since it's just 2 of us, we have a little extra time to talk. What are you thinking we're going to see at BlizzCon this year? Chat room's talking about how there was that tease of adventures yet to come on the BlizzCon schedule that went up, and then the schedule was taken down, but you could still get it on the mobile app. That's kind of what I was expecting, that we're probably going to hear about the next adventure, because it seems to be the cycle that they're going in with Hearthstone.
Yeah. TGT is still fairly new, but it really didn't have the impact on the meta that a lot of people probably predicted. You have seen some new decks exist because of it, but if you really think about it,
but yeah, like all the Druid decks we were seeing in this tournament. Well, really, it's like Darnassus Aspirant. The rest of it looks like Druid decks that were being run in last year's World Championship.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, really, what that did was it made Druid even better. It just took an existing Druid deck and made it just that much better.
Yeah, which isn't necessarily
gave Druid a tech card against, like, Druid really had a tough time dealing with things like Freezing Trap and Mirror Entity before, and now, like, that's just that one card is like, oh, here you go. Now I could use this card to counter both of those plays. And
right.
That's really huge for Druid. So that's why they're so strong now.
Yeah.
But I do think it's not like too early for an adventure. I would have said it was too early for an adventure if this was like GVG, where like it had just made such a massive impact and just changed the whole landscape. But I think we will see another adventure, something like 35 cards or something like that. And I do hope it's Ulduar. After we were talking last time, I was like, Ice Crown seems right, but Death Knight's got to be a thing, right? Before we do that, so Ulduar makes a lot of sense to me.
I think you do Ice Crown without necessarily doing Death Knights.
They could, but that'd be a little disappointing.
A little bit.
Just a little bit,
A little bit. But, there's tons of neutral paladin minions now. There's no reason we couldn't get a bunch of, like, Death Knight flavored neutrals that just to inject into everything.
Yeah, no, I agree. But like right now what TGT has introduced is Mage Druid better, Secret Paladin, which hasn't really cracked the tournament meta. It did, and then people kind of felt like they'd solved it. I think really good players can play around that big turn 6 play.
Right.
In really effective ways, so it's not as powerful as it does on the ladder. And then obviously Dragon Priest is now a thing, but even that hasn't cracked the tournament meta. So when you're really talking about what has TGT done to tournaments, it's really done is made Druid like a must-bring deck, right?
Yeah,
and everything else is kind of the same.
Refinement, really, more or less. It's given every deck like a little, maybe 1 or 2 cards here and there that they have now included. It's kind of been refining these decks.
Choices, yeah.
Right, with the exception of, like you said, things like Secret Paladin, new decks that have kind of come out of nowhere. But I mean, it's harder too. The longer as more and more stuff gets added, without any of the previous cards being taken away, a set's going to have to be just nuts for it to completely upset the given meta.
True. Yeah. And this is like what Ben Bro talked about in his video is like, well, I mean, we could turn everything up on its ears if we just like threw in a whole bunch of cards that were way too strong. But then that would not be good for the game. So
right.
You have to kind of pick and choose your spots and introduce a decent amount of cards. But what I really like is I like the cards that are kind of side, like you can say like Refreshment Vendor might be slightly better than this card, but they're really like both kind of equal, but they just do 2 different things. I really like a lot of those choices being viable, and the more cards there are, the more that kind of stuff can work. You can find combinations of cards that work without blatantly making one more powerful than the other, right? So I think that's what we're going to kind of see with this next adventure is we're going to maybe see some of this stuff get kind of filled out. Maybe Warlocks will get some more stuff to play with their discard mechanism, and we'll see some more kind of interesting spell interactions for mages. Maybe we'll find something else that Warlocks can do besides Handlock right now, because Zoo is like, just completely gone from the. I was actually talking to Kibler about that. I was like, why do you think Zoo is just gone? And he was like, it's really just because Zoo just gets crushed by Control Warrior, Handlock, and Patron Warrior. And because they get crushed by those decks, like, you can't bring them anymore. So like Handlock's your only choice, right?
Yeah.
And so I just want to see some more like interesting kind of techie cards that people can just put one of in. And a lot of times these are going to be interesting legendaries.
Yeah. So I'd say my top 3 for settings I want for the next adventure, I think it's, for me, Ice Crown number 1, Karazhan number 2, Ulduar number 3 But I would be totally stoked with any of those 3 being the theme of the next adventure. But
no, I think those same 3 would be, but I think I'd probably put Ulduar at the top just because Ulduar was like my favorite thing of all time. Like, that really was my favorite raid ever. Just everything about it, just the way you activated heroic modes and all that. Like, we just never seen anything like that since. And there's a lot of mech stuff that they can put in there. There's new giants, there's all sorts of cool things. Like, it doesn't really follow like one theme, so you can really kind of spread out with the minion types and stuff.
Yeah. I'd love to see how they would translate some of those boss fights.
Yeah, there'd be some interesting ones. What's the one where you like shoot the heart
oh geez, that you can get the little pet of it, and it's really annoying.
Yeah, well, the voice like acting was incredibly annoying on it.
Yeah.
But like it got down to the end where the thing was like if you killed the heart too fast or whatever, it would that would like
trigger the heroic mode.
Yeah. So like, but then at the end, you would just blast the heart away and like kill it in like 5 seconds.
Yeah, XT.
XT. Yeah, that was one of my favorite ones. Of course, you got the dude who puts you in his like nut pouch of flames.
that was Ignis. I loved him because he had that ridiculous voice acted line. It's just like burn. Like it really, whoever was in the voice acting booth that day was digging deep for that.
Yeah, and then of course you have oh dear. That's one of my favorites.
There's so many good fights. So many good fights. This just took a turn for the WoW, but oh yeah, bring it on. Bring on Ulduar. I'm all for it.
Man, that just killed my throat. Woo!
I heard just the beginning of that cough, and I'm like,
yeah,
fast on the trigger with that mute button. Well played, sir. Well played. So moving on, great, I think, qualifiers for the Americas, and I'm very excited for BlizzCon. But let's talk about something else. The Hearth Arena overlay. We talked about this coming, I want to say 2 weeks ago, and it's here. You can go get the Hearth Arena overlay now. Yep. This has to do with Hearth Arena, the arena kind of helping service that Dills you've mentioned many times now. And
I fully support this this website and the project they're doing. It's really great. The guys who run it are really great, and they are just really into the whole arena scene, the arena community of Hearthstone. And everybody who feels like they have problems with arena, it's a great learning tool. I know there's now going to be some talk, and we'll probably have to talk about this. About is this making it too easy? Which I've heard some people say like, oh, now when are we going to have a thing that like calculates whether you have lethal or not? Which, no, that's not going to happen. But so for anybody you tried it out, right?
Yeah, I got a chance to test it today, actually, just before the show. I went searching earlier on my lunch and couldn't find the link, but then found it after work today, and it works so well.
Yeah,
it's so well integrated. And
it took me a couple of times. Like I had to restart my whole computer to get it to run the first time. But once I did, you open the arena, it automatically sees like your class that you chose, and it sees the cards, and it tells you right there on the screen. It overlays it conveniently for you and tells you like which card has the highest tier score, and then gives you a little bit of an explanation because that tier score is affected by their algorithm as you draft. Because as you pick up certain cards that have synergies with other cards, or your curve needs a 2-drop, it boosts or lowers different cards arena scores. So,
and you should definitely I think if you're relatively new to the arena, make sure you're reading the tooltips, because there are instances where the tooltip will say actually in this scenario I would go with this card even though the rating on it is lower, and it'll give you an explanation as to why. And this is one of the reasons I think it's actually a good tool, and I don't necessarily think it's super handholdy any more than just researching the living crap out of arena you can already do for you. This just streamlines the process. I think it can teach you how to be a significantly better arena player if you actually take your time with it and you read why it's telling you to make the picks that it's telling you to make. And you can also intelligently disagree with it down the road. It's like, well, no, I really want to go with this card because this reason.
Yeah, and I actually, so I was, before the show, I was also playing with it, and I drafted a mage deck that's currently 5-0. It does have Deathwing, and Deathwing did win me a couple of games. But it's a solid deck. It made me pick solid cards within what I was given, within the options I was given. But I disagree with it, I think, 3 times, and I actually picked against it. And oftentimes in those cases, the scores are pretty close. Like you can, like I don't often pick against it when it's like a 20-point difference in the score. But if it's like a 2 or 3 point difference, then it's usually kind of a human being with cognitive skills can actually properly think through why one choice would be better. And an algorithm is never going to be perfect, So
right.
It's a great learning tool, but I think ultimately you will want to use it to learn, and then use it as a guide to kind of let you analyze your choices as you go through picks, but you will not always pick with it, for sure. Yeah, and it's really well done. It makes drafting really quick, because before you'd have to go and you'd have to type all the stuff. And while the tool was great, people are lazy and don't like to do that. So here you go. It's Windows only. Couple of drawbacks. Windows only. If you're playing on an iPad or an iPhone, obviously, you won't be able to use it. But, so for all those Windows users out there, it's fantastic.
It is. It's just a darn great little add-on. It works on Overwolf, by the way. So if you're familiar with Overwolf, it's built in through that kind of engine. We've got a download link in the show notes.
Before.
Neither had I. No, I'd never heard of it before this. But apparently they have little overlay add-ons for a lot of different games.
Yeah.
But I just can't get over this. It works so damn well. Hearth Arena was already an amazing tool, and now it has kind of the service provider that I feel like it always needed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, this was really what was missing. Was just like a way to plug it in and make it go. Like the Hearthstone deck tracker is so convenient now because it actually has essentially one-button imports and stuff. And now when you actually draft in an arena, you actually get it, like automatically builds your deck for you there. Like, so a lot of these great features using the
I did not know
log,
it did that.
Yeah, no, it's they've really improved it over time.
Oh damn.
At first it was kind of cumbersome because you'd have to go in and you'd have to type in all your cards, and you have to like find them and build the deck. And now even for constructed, you can like, you basically got it's a little trick. You got to go into the deck, then leave the deck and go back to the main screen, and then it can import it for you. Right. So it's just like a matter of like tricking the log just the right way to give them the information they need. But it's gotten a lot more useful, and this was what Hearth Arena needed too. Was a similar situation, and they actually did put a deck tracker in with this overlay. So not only do you get you're tracking your stats, you're getting help with the draft, but you're also able to track your deck while you're playing the games. So they really didn't forget anything, and I'm sure it'll get even better. But as a first release, it is incredibly clean. So
yeah.
And we're going to have Edwakta on the show next week to talk more about it.
We are. Very, very excited about that.
Yeah,
also,
so we're going to talk a lot of Arena and a lot of Hearth Arena.
I can't wait to ask him why his name is so hard to pronounce.
So I've heard that it stands for All Day We Crush the Arena. Edwakta. But I don't think that's actually true. I think that's just what somebody came up with, and it worked out. I think he said it was something he thought was really cool when he was younger, and then it just became his gamer tag.
Maybe don't stick with it. I don't know.
I don't know, but at some point it's like it's too late, right? You know, like if at this point I was like, I don't want to be Dills anymore. I'm done with that.
I'm trying to remember
that wouldn't work out well.
I'm trying to remember what my first like AIM screen name was, and I can't think of it. And I'm sure it was
Naughty
terrible.
Girl 69.
Oh, you know.
Yeah,
no, like
I remember.
It was hot cross buns. 420.
Naughty Girl GRRL.
With like 3 X's on either side of it because it was taken, and I had some underscores, and it's wonderful. Anyways, before we move into strategy and talk about Jab's Casino Mage, we want to thank our patrons over at patreon.com/TAC. If you're enjoying the show, you want to support it, head on over to Patreon. Kick us $1, kick us 50 cents an episode, whatever you want to do. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Show's going to keep coming to you anyway. But big fat thanks to our patrons. And this week we wanted to thank Andrew H., Robin S., Kevin W., Frank U., and Will H.M. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. We really do appreciate it. And now, let's talk about Mage.
Hit it very hard.
Wanna blow something up? Time to pay!
We're talking Jab's Casino Mage today, Dills. You're in love with this deck.
It's a really fun deck, man. It is like, to me, when I play on ladder, I want to be having a good time. And sometimes I'll be playing on ladder and I'll be playing just what the correct deck to be playing on the ladder is. And this is why I'll be on like a win streak and I'll just be like, I think I'm done with ladder. And it's not a matter of like I'm winning or losing and I'm getting frustrated. It's just that playing a deck that I don't find very fun makes the game much more of a grind. And that's what keeps me from pursuing goals and stuff like reaching legend. That's like Dills to Whatevs is all about, like, I'm just here to have a good time, man. And if we rank up, that's great. And if we don't, we don't. But this is a good deck that also is incredibly fun. And there's a kind of a weird reason why this deck is actually good. So you played it though, but we didn't talk really much about it, and you just played a few games. Just give me your impression as someone who hasn't like played that many games, hasn't had somebody kind of like tell them how the deck's supposed to work, just someone just grabbing it and going.
You're gonna love this. Casino Mage, in a few words, RNG hell.
Or heaven.
You're right. I'm sorry. My mistake. Yeah. It's RNG yin and yang.
Yeah. There are going to be games where everything's going to go against you and it's going to suck. But so the interesting thing about this deck is that yes, there's a lot of RNG in these cards. There's a ton of these cards that work totally randomly, but they're also like good cards, and they are broken cards when the RNG goes in your favor just a little bit. It doesn't have to like 100% go your way, but if it goes a little bit your way, if you draw a good spell with Spell Slinger and the other guy draws a worse spell, if you get a good card with Grand Crusader and the other guy, well, obviously doesn't get anything from that, but you get a 5/5 body on top and you draw a card, and yes, it's random, but sometimes the card is just a game-winning card. And also you don't run, it's a very tempo-oriented mage where you get these really strong starts with mana worms and stuff, but what happens with tempo mage is that they get these really strong starts with mana worm, and then they run out of cards, right? All their cards cost 1 mana, and like unless they get both of their Azure Drakes, they're just out of cards. And if they haven't killed you by then or put enough pressure on you to top deck a fireball, then it's like you're just not going to win. So this deck continues to kind of draw into resources, albeit randomly, right? So Spell Slingers kind of sustain you. It gives you a 3/4 body, which is a fine body, and it gives you a spell. And the spells tend to work with your deck probably better than they're going to work with the other decks.
Well, right, because you're either going to get Mana Worm value or you're going to get Flame Waker value, and in some rare cases you're going to get value from both at the exact same time, and you're going to feel like a boss.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just kind of like one of those things where yes, it's random, but there's a method to the madness, and Jab really believes that this deck is a top tier deck. And he believed it so much, he took it to the North America's qualify. I mean, he took it to the biggest tournament of the year for him. And he says he crushes on the ladder with it. I currently am something like 13-7 with it or something like that. I mean, I'm doing pretty well with the deck. So
and he came in third, so he's moving on to BlizzCon. Like it works. I did not have a stellar first run with this deck. I never tried it before, so I sat down and played 5 games with it today, and I went 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm. But that's learning a deck.
Right. The 2 games I won, it felt like I was just crushing and just my opponents had no chance. But the games that I lost, I felt like I was being crushed and had no chance.
Sure. Now, I will say this though too. This deck does have some like crazy turnaround potential. Mm-hmm. The one thing it doesn't have is something like a Flame Strike, which would be the card that you would think like, oh well, that'll get me back into it. But a lot of times, like Dr. Boom's Boombots, Ragnaros hitting the right target, Spell Slinger giving you some magical spell, getting like a really good drop out of your piloted Shredder, getting an awesome weapon off of Blingtron. Like these could be really big swings. And so even if you're like behind, one big RNG turn can actually bring you back into the game. So you're never quite, and then also there's unstable portals, which can sometimes just, Deathwing, So, I mean, yes, there's ways to come back, even if it's like, I'm behind. So I feel like this deck also has more comeback potential than current iterations of what I guess people consider like a really like tight tempo mage deck. Because those decks might run one Flame Strike, but pretty much like their whole plan is to just dominate the early game and then just outpace you and kill you and burn you out, right?
Right.
And if they don't get that early game, if they just get a couple of minions removed, they have nothing they could do. And this deck at least has something. So I don't know. I'm kind of on board with this deck, and I have fun with it. I think that's fine.
I really, you're 100% on point. I don't disagree with you really at all. You're making all good points. But the thing I definitely agree with you more than anything is that the deck is incredibly fun to play.
Yes, it is. And so I would tell people who are trying this deck out, approach it as like, I know this deck can be good, and I'm sure that I'm not quite doing the right thing just yet, but I'll get there and I'll have fun doing it. And just know that a really, really good player, I think actually might be like when we're talking about right now, the best players, that purple obviously right now it seems like the guy, but I would put Jab right there with him.
So would BlizzCon because he's playing in it.
Yeah, exactly. But he's got an incredibly analytical mind, and he makes very few mistakes in his play. And if he believes in his deck, that's all the endorsement I need. And just go run with it, have fun with it, and don't worry so much about the outcomes. Just worry about making the correct play. I think it's one of those decks you got to separate those two things.
I have a huge personal aversion to RNG, kind of in general. It's what's made me fall out of love with Shaman because it's huge with them. So I feel like you just need to give yourself over. I don't know, check your personal card playing baggage at the door with this deck. Except obviously, making informed decisions, bring that with you. But
so you think about your turns and think about like what the outcomes of these random elements might be and how they might benefit you. But then embrace the outcome that does happen.
Right.
Because if you don't, you're just gonna be frustrated.
Like I look at Spellslinger, and it just immediately boils my blood. It's like, oh, why would I put this in my deck? It gives them a card too. But you are absolutely right. It is a spell, and unless I'm playing a mirror matchup, that spell's going to do. It's almost guaranteed to always do a little more for me than it does for my opponent.
Yeah. And it also gives you a 3/4 body at the same time for 3 mana. So like you're coming out ahead in the transaction. Right?
Exactly. No, you're absolutely right. I'm going through like my own mental hurdles that I went through trying to accept that I need to play this deck and have fun with it. Obviously, probably the thing I disagree with the most is Blingtron. It doesn't matter for me personally because I don't have the card.
Sure.
But
well, you can replace Blingtron with, like, I think I told you another Azure Drake or Piloted Shredder would be fine.
Yeah, I ended up slotting in an extra Piloted Shredder just to smooth out the curve a little more.
Yeah, because it's actually the only 4-drop outside of Fireball, which is not a 4-drop.
Yeah.
So, but the argument that Jab made for Blingtron is that Blingtron can a lot of times act as like another Fireball in your deck because the average outcome of it is that it gives you a weapon that's going to deal at least 6 damage.
Yeah.
So, he felt like this is another finisher essentially for me.
Yeah, and also, I mean, you get to play it. You get the weapon that turn that you play it. You can swing with the weapon that turn. So you do in a way you get initiative with the card.
Yeah.
But it's
and
still
you can also use it to replace the opponent's weapon if they have a really good weapon. Like
that's true.
If a patron warrior has their death bite and they're already on the second charge of it, you can get rid of it before they do what they want to do with it, which is make a whole bunch of patrons.
Exactly. So you can preemptively trigger the death rattle on the death bite.
Yeah. So there's some proactive plays with that card, and also you do have the Frostbolts. So you can also do the Blingtron into Frostbolt play. You gain a weapon, you freeze their face, and then they can't use their weapon, and then you get 2 free swings with your weapon before they ever get to use theirs.
Yeah.
There is an argument to be made for putting in stuff like Water Elemental if you're gonna run Blingtron, and I don't think that's a bad idea. I think the Jab's just not doing it because it doesn't fit the deck. It's not randomness.
I don't think so. I think you're fine. I think if you have Frostbolts in here, I think that's totally okay. I feel like Frost Elemental's a little slow for this deck.
Yeah, no, I agree too. It's a card that when it gets out and then it sticks a turn is just so strong. But
right.
Yeah, and then there's some other interesting thing here. So Acid Rave Lamp just brought it up. Only 2 secrets with Mad Scientist, and then there's another reason for that too, and that is when you play the 3rd secret, you up your chance of drawing the secrets, right? So you really don't want to draw the secrets. You want to get them just for free off of these Mad Scientists because that is such a strong tempo play. It's 5 mana worth of stuff for 2 mana, and you get the body on board that they have to deal with. But when you draw the secrets into your hand, actually like just off the top of the deck, that's negative. These secrets are actually very bad when you have to actually pay the full 3 mana for them.
Yeah.
So the reason you only run 2 is that you don't need more than one of those free secret turns to give you that swing you need. So it cuts down on the chances of drawing a secret.
Yeah. The card I came around on the fastest was Arcane Blast. First, I was very confused as to why it was even in this deck, and then after multiple hunters dropping Knife Jugglers on their second turn, I got it.
Well, so there's just an insanely strong turn of you dropping Sorcerer's Apprentice and then free Arcane Blasting their 3/2.
Exactly.
And you might have a 3/2 and they got nothing.
Yeah, and you might have Mana Worm on board as well, which gets buffed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Craziness.
So it's an interesting thing because it's like these cards might not make sense, but when they all go together, there's a reason for everything. There's a reason for all of these tech choices to be in this deck, and they all seem to work really, really well together. So,
yep.
I encourage anyone who's interested in a fun, weird, funky mage deck to go ahead and give this one a shot. I know there's probably some cards that people aren't going to craft, like Blingtron and Grand Crusader as well, but I'm telling you, those are fun-ass cards, man.
I broke down and crafted Grand Crusader. I was too curious.
Yeah?
Fun card.
It's a really good card, too, because like what it gives you is, in general, very good. I mean,
yep.
The Paladin is one of the classes that has the strongest set of cards.
I got a quality in one game, and it won me the game.
Wow, nice. Yeah, see, I've gotten Tyrion off of it. I actually got a Bolvar one time, which actually ended up being pretty good.
That was like our Burgles last week.
Yeah, exactly. Like just having like cards like that, I just think whether or not like that card might be really, really good, in certain cases it can be game breakingly good, and that to me is kind of worth it. It's like our Burgle deck, that was the only choice that was weird, right? Was putting Burgle in.
Yep.
But holy crap, it won me a bunch of games on ladder. How'd you do with that deck, by the way?
I didn't continue playing any games with it.
People were saying they were crushing with it, and the attack.
I did. Actually, my favorite one was one of the gentlemen on Twitter. I can't remember who now. Who said he was playing a rogue against a rogue deck, and he was just like, "Oh, it's a pirate deck," but I'm assuming it's just a regular pirate deck. But then Burgle came out. He's like, this is the Angry Chicken Burgle deck."
You gotta say hello, and then friend them after the game and all that stuff.
Burgle Pirates, yeah. Wonderful.
Burgle Pirate Rogue.
Absolutely wonderful.
Amazing.
So, folks,
we got to do that segment again, by the way. People actually did enjoy that. So, creating a deck, I think, on the fly is a pretty fun.
I literally saw one comment saying that they didn't like the deck building. Everything else I have read has said the opposite, that everyone liked it, and we saw.
I mean, you're not going to please everybody,
right? Exactly. I don't expect. I'm sure there's some people that don't like news for whatever reason, but. Nonetheless, it seemed to be overly positive, so expect to see that come back in slower weeks, folks, much like our arena draft segments. So, anyways, if you want to see Jab's Casino Mage, we have a link to the deck list in our show notes. Just go to amove.tv/TAC, look for the episode 110 post once the show is up. Now, let's take a crazy game story.
Has the whole world gone crazy?
You're in trouble now.
You got it!
If you've got a crazy game story that you think is worthy for the Angry Chicken and it's relatively brief, send it to tacpodcast@gmail.com. Our story today comes to us from Scott, and he says, "What is up, angriest of chickens? I was playing an arena mirror match the other day as a paladin, and in my opening hand, I had my good friend Bolvar Dragon. Yes. I love Bolvar. He's not a good card, but I love him. So instead of mulliganing him away, I decided to see just how big I could get him. As the game went on, I was clearly ahead in tempo and was easily trading into all of his minions when all of a sudden, my opponent plays Mysterious Challenger, and his portrait becomes a full Christmas tree. An arena. Wow.
Whoa.
That's impressive. Anyway, long story short, I end up getting past all of his secrets except one with a pretty nice board, and I play a 27 attack 4-dragon. Holy shit. My opponent having 30 health left gives me the having 30 health left gives me the well met, hits my 4-dragon with a blessing of might and passes. Instead of being a good Hearthstone player and attacking with one of my small minions first to test his last secret, I go full steam ahead with Bolvar, and then the secret is revealed to be none other than Jocelyn's favorite card, Eye for an Eye. My heart sinks into my chest as I get whacked for 30 damage and lose the game. Keep up the good work and keep on clucking. P.S. Garrett, I feel your pain on not getting legendaries in TGT. I opened 75 packs and just got Mistcaller.
Damn.
That really sucks.
So, yeah, proper testing is important when you're playing around secrets, but
yeah,
I guess no one sees the Eye for an Eye coming.
No, but it's arena, and he just happened to find like a whole Christmas tree's worth of secrets. I mean, they could literally be anything. At that point, I'm assuming... How do you think that dude's arena draft went? Do you think he found Mysterious Challenger first, or do you think he just kept seeing secret after secret and he was just like, whatever, I'm going to take them all and see if I find a challenger?
I think you get Mysterious Challenger first, and then he goes, all right, I'm picking every secret from
every secret from here on out.
Yeah. But, I mean, look, you got 4-dragon, so, you had a legendary in there. But, yeah, it's in arena, this is not a scenario you're going to see very often. That's what makes this a very crazy, crazy game story. But I thought that if you were going to do the 30 damage to kill him, that you would tie. Is that not how that works? I guess we just found out some science. He says he lost.
I think you would tie as well.
Yeah, because I thought that both characters took the damage, not just
Doesn't
you.
a tie still in arena give you a loss though?
Oh, okay. So they probably both got a loss.
I was about to say, because I'm pretty.
Yeah.
I want to say the only tie I ever got was in arena, and I did receive an X, but it was a long time ago, and I don't remember. But I'm pretty sure a tie gives you a loss in arena.
All right, so yeah, they both got losses. Makes sense. So yeah, it was a tie then. All right, because I was gonna say like he says that he got the loss, but yeah, got it.
Oh yeah, Drew in the chat room says it'll show a loss, but doesn't count as one.
No, I think in ladder it might not count as one, but I think on arena it does. We'll have to do some science. We'll figure it out. I'm not sure, but yeah, the eye for an eye definitely like you. They still take the damage. You just also take the damage. So
yeah.
We'll get Detective Dills on the case.
I'm seriously Googling it right now. What happens in arena? Answer. When two players die simultaneously, that counts as a tie, even though it's displayed as a loss in the end screen. A tie with neither will neither increase your number of wins nor your number of losses in arena.
Oh,
and that's
okay.
marked as correct.
Well, there you go. So nobody gets a loss.
Shows right. So it tells you it's a loss, but you don't actually lose. You don't actually get a mark against you.
So
okay.
a loss screen will pop up, and then you'll go back and you'll have the same exact record. It's like the game never happened.
I misremembered.
Interesting.
Who'd have thunk it?
I actually don't think that's ever happened to me in arena. I can honestly say I've had it happen in actual games because I've had Hellfire. Like I was going to lose if I didn't Hellfire, and so I Hellfired so that we both died.
Yeah.
And I don't really. That was a long ass time ago. I don't play a lot of Warlock anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, let's take a couple emails before we end the show.
Hello.
Sure. Hello, it's me.
Hello.
Just quickly, do you get my message?
Yep.
Oh.
Hello, brother.
You can also send your emails to tacpodcast@gmail.com. Our first email tonight comes to us from Matt, a.k.a. Saji, who writes, "Hey, angry descendants of dinos. A little late, but congrats on 100 episode, guys. Keep up the great work. Love the show. I had an idea that might make it easier for new players or players with small card collections to get past those rough early times and stick with Hearthstone. In Heroes of the Storm, you get a selection of 7 free heroes to choose from each week, so you can try out who you like or expand the selection of available heroes for new players. What if Hearthstone had a selection of free cards each week? Say, 3 legendary cards and 5 epic cards, which were available to all players to add to decks. They could change up the cards each week. That would let players who don't have those cards give them a try to see if they want to craft them, or try that one net deck they've always been wanting to, but don't have the expensive cards. Keep clucking." That's an interesting suggestion.
It is.
My logical, boring retort is, well, you can already do this in arena, sort of, kind of. I mean, you're not guaranteed to see the same cards, but you definitely are going to...
some tavern brawls.
And yeah, that as well. So 2 out of the 3 modes in Hearthstone right now that allow you to PvP let you play with cards that you may not have.
Yeah. I get the sense that they'll never really do something like this, but it is an interesting thought. I really like the idea of just having some kind of set packs, like some expansion packs or even pre-built decks that you can buy. So players who don't have a lot of specific cards can actually go get like one of the more popular decks easily once those cards have all kind of been in rotation for a long time. I think that would be a little bit more helpful to, like think about like in a Magic situation, like I don't have a deck, I could buy a whole box and hope that I get the cards I need, or I could buy like one of those Clash packs, right?
Yeah.
Or one of those pre-built decks that's like, I got a deck that's like okay, it's missing some stuff, and I'll eventually add stuff in. And I would like to see something like that implemented into Hearthstone at some point. When there's too many cards, even in this scenario, if you're rotating cards in and out, you might go, I really like that card, but now how do I craft it? Like, I got to disenchant a bunch of stuff, somehow get the 1600 dust, and that might be really difficult for somebody. So you get a chance to try it out. It's not really solving the problem of getting cards that are effective into newer players' hands. So I'd kind of like to see it like that way, but I don't see anything wrong with this. If Blizzard decided they want to do it, I wouldn't be against it at all.
I would. I'd be so angry. not really. No, I have no problem with this whatsoever. I just think that there's enough avenues for new players to get to mess around with cards that they don't have.
Yeah, in a sense, like too, like you're not getting a higher percentage of the time to get a card you really want to mess with this way than you would if you just played Arena.
Yeah.
If you're waiting around for that free legendary week, and then that goes away and doesn't come back again for a really long time, that's a little bit different. And I also think too, like you can't craft heroes in Heroes of the Storm, so what other way are you going to do it? Like,
you could argue that buying them with gold is basically crafting them with dust.
Okay,
sure. It's very similar.
But you target a hero. Like you can't in Hearthstone necessarily target a card and then say, I'm just going to buy Leroy Jenkins. You can buy a bunch of packs and hope to get lucky and get enough dust or just pull the exact card you want. But you can't just be like, I just want to buy that card. I need that card.
Right.
And I think there would be a beneficial thing to do like later on when there's just so many cards, which might actually be pretty close to that point already. But if you could just buy, right at the beginning, if you could just buy like, oh, I want to play Handlock, but I don't have the Giants, I don't have this, so let me buy the Handlock pack, and it's like a super basic version of Handlock that's got the Giants, it's got the Twilight Drakes, and then if you have some cards, it discounts that for you a little bit, and then you just now have a basic Handlock, and you can tech in stuff that you like.
That would be really interesting to see Blizzard directly reference net decks in the game in such a one-to-one fashion. I would be really surprised to see them do something like that.
But they are aware of that. I mean, we've had Ben Brode on, like they're aware of what the common decks are that people are playing. I mean,
because it's made by human beings who are very interested in their own game, and but at the same time, we've never really seen inside the game itself. We've never really seen like the meta of the game so one-to-one represented.
I can see that, yeah. I mean, we have seen like pre-made decks in Tavern Brawl, and obviously they give you these basic decks, but these basic decks are just like so terrible. Like there's,
they're awful.
But I mean, like that's the problem. Like when a new player goes to play the game, and they don't know how to build a deck, and they look at a deck like the basic Hunter deck, and then they go out and they actually go, okay, well, I don't know how to build a deck, so let me go out and play this deck. Then they just get raffle stomped for a bunch of time, and they get really down on the game, and they don't feel like it's very fun. But if you had an option, you can go and say, here is a known competitive deck, and we've had some of our top players in the world of Hearthstone, like here's Trump's Handlock deck, here's and like you could attach a pro player's name to it, and purchase this deck. Like I think that'd be cool. I think it would be a way for a player who doesn't have a lot of cards to just feel like, well, I have this way to play, and I feel somewhat competitive with it. I mean, right now, like that's a tough place to get to, and that is the place where a player is likely to just leave, right, and just never play again when they feel like it's a long road to get to the point where they can be at all competitive.
Yeah. I'm not saying I'm against it. I would be very surprised to see Blizzard take that route. Sure. I mean, we see pre-constructed decks existing in other card games, and I don't see anything necessarily wrong with bringing that into Hearthstone. To me, I would see them theming it more heavily, where the decks aren't maybe not necessarily be the best thing in the world, but maybe you would pick it up because it was cheaper and there were some guaranteed legendaries in it that you were missing. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know, like imagine paying like $8 for a pre-made deck and there's 30 cards in it and there's like one legendary. I mean, you could do whatever. It's like, oh, it's the Holy deck, and it's a bunch of Divine Shield minions and healing minions. Yeah. But, oh, there's Tyrion in it, so I'm missing Tyrion. I'll pay the $8 to get a guaranteed Tyrion. I'll dust whatever duplicates I get with this deck.
Yeah. People in chat are saying you'd lose incentive for buying packs. Well, I don't think you would buy, like, I think what Garrett's saying is also makes a lot of sense. Like, I don't think you would do this with. There would be no TGT cards, right, in this deck. There would be no GVG cards in it. There would be no adventure cards in it. This would be a deck made of, like, classic cards. And so it would give you, like, a head start. Like, here you go. I've caught up with a classic deck now. And you can only do this after a set had been out for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. And I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing in the world to do, a couple pre-made decks with a new set. But at the same time, actually, new sets don't bring in a whole ton of cards, so maybe it would be. You'd have to mix in old cards anyway, but
yeah.
whatever the case. It's interesting. I'd like it's interesting. I enjoy talking about what other kind of avenues they could go to monetize the game and to maybe make it more one-to-one with the with tangible card games that we see. I mean, you go to Target, you can buy a pre-built Magic deck. It's like, well, what do you want? Red, black. Let's pick that up. Yeah. Yay!
I want the one that has Jace in it.
Yeah,
because I'm an asshole.
Yes, you are, Jace player. Anyways, Dills, next email.
This is from Kenny Zombie, who says, "Hi, you three. Keep it short and simple. I like that. A friend of mine recently picked up Hearthstone and already spent some money on the Naxxramas adventure. Still, he has a hard time putting together even one functioning deck, and I can't really help him. I just keep telling him to save gold and buy nothing until he can score at least some victories in Arena, but that's not really a fun way to start the game. My idea to help new players is to introduce class-specific card packs. Well, here you go. Whenever you open them, you have the same chance for neutral or class cards, but if it's a class card, it's only for the class you purchased the pack for. Otherwise, you disenchant all class cards, but for one class, and still don't get enough dust for a decent deck and really hurt your collection in the long run." Okay. I think that was worded a little weird, but I get the gist. On a plus side for Blizzard, I don't think this would hurt pack sales. Actually, I would expect the opposite, as more new players would be willing to spend some money if they know they can get something out of it. What do you guys think? By the way, did you know the shape of a mana crystal is called a hexagonal pyramid? The more you know. So this is another kind of way to address the problem with being a new player, and it's a similar thing to what we were talking about, but instead of here's a deck for a class, it's just saying I would like to play Paladin, so please only put Paladin cards in my deck. I think there has to be some sort of a premium to that. Otherwise, like,
this does seem a little more in line with how the store already works. I mean, I'm immediately thinking of, like, from the art perspective, it's like, wow, like it's somewhere Ben Thompson's going, yeah, guys, thanks. Now I have to design 9 new card packs.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Again, this would be fine. I'm sure somebody at Blizzard would be like, UI issues. We need all of a sudden have 9 extra packs showing up in the store, but. I don't know. I would be really interested in this, especially, if I was brand new day one today and I just really wanted to say play Paladin. It'd be lovely if I could just be, I'll pick up Paladin packs till I have a halfway decent Paladin pack. Then I'll just start picking up the general packs.
Yeah, I think the issue here is, like what you said, how would you really address the packs? Because would you put in Paladin cards from all the sets, or would you have to buy a classic Paladin deck or pack and a TGT
question.
Paladin pack? And it's like it gets a little convoluted. And
I mean, that would obviously imagine a world, just for the sake of argument, where these class packs did exist, and every time a new expansion comes out, those cards are just thrown into the mix for these packs. That would be the best thing ever for new players.
Sure. Because you can feel caught up with the one deck that you want to play.
Right,
yeah.
But I'm not sure it's definitely not helping with the simplicity of the game, and I'm not sure it'd be the best business decision for Blizzard.
Well, Blizzard, yeah. There's so many suggestions that players will make because of their specific situation.
Yeah.
And they go, well, this is what I need, and this is what I want.
Yeah.
But, in the grand scheme of things, when you're the game company, you're like, well, here, we made this game that you can play for free if you want to. But if you want all the cards, that's just going to cost you money. That's just how this works.
And there could be an argument. I mean, we always get asked, what should I disenchant legendaries to build decks? And Joss and I usually agree. It's like, well, yeah, if you're just starting out, you probably should scrimp and save and disenchant where you can to make kind of one solid
disenchant gold
deck.
cards if I'm
but you're always of your argument is always, well, you never know when a card will be good. Maybe don't disenchant any card if you can help it, and maybe just disenchant golds. I feel like there's another counter argument to Kenny Zombie's point here. It's like, you could if you could just buy Paladin cards, that'd be cool. You'd be able to build out a Paladin card or a Paladin deck a lot faster. But there is something to be said for coming across cards that you weren't looking for that might lead you down a road to a deck that you really enjoy.
Yeah, and then that's another thing too. I think Blizzard really likes the idea that you open some cards up, you don't know what they do, you peruse your collection, you figure some stuff out, and you try some stuff, and that kind of experience, I think, goes away when you just target a net deck, essentially, and just try your best to just get that exact deck. And I get, we just suggested a pre-built deck thing. But, this is like the catch-22 of like what Blizzard does. It's like, how do we make this easy and also interesting and dynamic and the model that we originally came up with? Is there a way to do both? Maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, where it stands now, it's incredibly simple and easy to wrap your head around the way the store works, the way that Blizzard deals with packs.
Yeah, it's also easy to figure out why it's frustrating for new players, though, too.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the rub. You know, it's like we want both. I don't know if we're gonna get there.
Yeah, but while the pre-constructed decks for Magic are not usually, you're not going to be able to buy that and go into a tournament with it.
Yeah.
It's nice for new players. Because like me and my buddy want to get into Magic. All right, let's just go buy 2 pre-built decks and just go play.
Yeah.
There's a rule book or a foldable rule sheet inside. I wouldn't call it a book.
Well, and it explains what the deck does, kind of, and it gives you like a little bit of a primer. And for a game like that is very intimidating at first, you kind of need that experience, right? To feel like, oh, I can do this. Like I was teaching Lady Dills to play Magic the other day, and we used those decks. And she would like have hated the Magic experience if I was like, all right, here's a whole bunch of cards, and build a deck, and then we'll play. Like, she would not have enjoyed that one bit. But she was like, oh, okay, so I just have this mana and I play this card, and okay. And all we had to talk about was how the deck work, how the game works, not why this card should be in your deck or not, and that whole process. Like, and that's I think what kind of Hearthstone's missing, right? You don't have a way to just say, here's a deck, go. Right,
and that's how I was introduced to Magic. My buddy Ben, we were hanging out. He's like, hey, you want to learn how to play Magic? I was like, yeah, let's do that. And he had like 4 pre-constructed decks. He's like, well, here's a green and white one. It's built around big creatures and some healing. And here's a black one, and it's like these weird enchantment effects that are detrimental to your opponent. And he just gave me a real quick breakdown. I was like, I don't know, green and white sounds cool. I like healing in like World of Warcraft, so I'll take the deck that has some healing and some big scary creatures. All right, let's just go. Yeah. And it was a really cool thing. And I didn't have that experience with Hearthstone because I got in at the ground floor.
Sure.
But I imagine, if like my buddy got into Hearthstone today and he wanted to get into it, it'd be lovely if I could just be like, well, here's a hunter deck that's about like little minions and juggling knives, and then here's a warrior deck that's about playing slow but outliving everything and having huge threats at the end, and giving them the kind of that option, just being like, all right, cool, you take that deck, I'll take the one you didn't take, let's play a game.
Yeah, no, and that experience is unavailable right now in Hearthstone, and as you get deeper and deeper, that might be the experience they have to recreate to like cross over this threshold, which is like new player to player who plays the game a lot.
Yeah.
Because right now I don't even understand what that process must be like.
It's got to be maddening, right? Like, it's not like I read stuff on certain threads and Reddits and whatnot, and people kind of it seems like, I don't know, this weird kind of like, oh, it must be so easy, why haven't you done this yet? And it's like they're clearly thinking about it, and they're clearly concerned about making the right decision and deciding what the correct thing to do is down the line when there's too many cards for it to be accessible to a new player.
No, they're aware that this is a problem, definitely. I just think the answer is not as simple as like everybody has the answer for their specific situation, right? And this is the thing that you can't do as Blizzard. You can't look and say, "Oh, this is the easy answer. Boop boop, we're done. Like, we got it."
You know what the easy answer is?
Like Patron. Everybody has an answer for Patron, right? But it's like none of these I think are the right one.
I got something.
Sorry, you have one? You got it?
I have the correct answer, and it's totally not personal or selfish.
Okay.
Implement arena tournaments.
Okay.
Yeah, it's totally not a personal request.
Nah.
It's every single player in the world wants this more than anything else.
It's funny because this email here, he was like, well, I had him playing arena, but that's not a fun way to play the game. And I'm like, what? That's all I did for like the first year of this game. And I had a great time. I loved arena, and I still love arena. I still play a ton of arena. I feel like arena's gotten like a bad rap, maybe because it's such a singular experience.
It feels removed. It feels like its own little, like, weird gated off cul-de-sac. Like,
it's a mini game or something almost. Like, it's and you feel like, I just got really unlucky. And but
constructed
players who spend time on it realize like, I can get better. I can win with bad decks.
Right.
I can craft better decks out of bad choices.
Yeah, that's why I want break the door down. Let open it up. Let us somehow organize arena tournaments and let it become its own meta game and its own tournament scene and its own alternative format to construct. And I'd love to see that. But
I think in the end, just give us as many options as just let us go crazy. Like just all the little things, just more ways to play the game, more ways to gain cards, more ways to just do the things that are fun. And I know that like maybe that's a lot of stuff to do for a small team, but this is how like the game's going to continue to grow and be fun for like everybody.
Absolutely,
everybody wants to play the game a little bit different from the other guy.
Look at all of the ways you can play World of Warcraft.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know people who do nothing but just craft weird stuff all day, and pet battle.
Yep.
And
auction house barons. I've never understood that particular like weird subsect of the WoW population. It's like you just sit in auction all day. Yeah, it's fun, man. I get to play like the stock. Like, why don't you just play the real stock market and make actual money? Like, I've never gotten it, but hey, to each their own. Play the game the way you want to play it, and it's just I don't know. I love Hearthstone so much. And I know people get some people get annoyed when we bring up Magic and how we can take the things that are really great in Magic, which you and I tend to agree it's all the formats. So if you get bored with one format, you can keep playing the game and just pick a new one.
Yeah, there's plenty of things I don't like about Magic. There's plenty of I don't like how complex sometimes a turn can be with like these weird like if I don't do something in just the right order, then the other guy's like, oh, I'm sorry, actually I didn't take damage from that, and this guy actually died before this thing happened, and so this trigger happened, and this is on the stack, so that I'm just like no, I just want to push that into your guy.
My biggest complaint with Magic is much simpler than that. I hate drawing nothing but lands, or I hate drawing nothing but minions.
Sure. And as much as I like interaction on my turn, I also hate when I can't cast anything ever because they always have like mana up on my turn. Like that is super frustrating and not fun at all.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you have to just call their bluff. Sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. But it happens. Anyway,
that's the thing. We use Magic as a frame of reference for this game. Like that's the thing. It's like when you play all the games, you kind of get a little bit more of an understanding of what one does better than the other, and that's the thing. It's like this. Hearthstone does so many things right, and there's a lot of things Magic does right. And if we could just do all those things Magic does right in Hearthstone too, that'd be awesome, and that would be like the perfect world.
If we were talking about a brand new MMO that just came out today. And we really liked it and we wanted to see it grow, we would be talking about all of the things that WoW does right that we would like to see whatever that new unnamed MMO, isn't doing.
Yeah.
So, and we've got one more email, and it comes to us from Kyle, and Kyle writes, "Hey Dills, Jocelyn, and that other guy." Wait a minute, I want to back this up. Can I take Kyle's name away from him?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
This comes from some guy.
Some dude. Some dude writes in, "Hey Dills, Jocelyn, and that other guy. We need a way to make Arena matter." What? It's like they're reading our minds.
Yeah, I know. We're answering the email before we get to it. What's going on here?
What if we did a ladder system in ranked similar to constructed? Wait, in rank does he mean arena?
A ladder system in ranked similar. Okay, I think he means arena.
I think he means arena. Each month you would start at 25. You do your arena run as usual. Each win gives you a star, and a loss takes a star. You can only get a maximum of 5 stars. Once you reach Legend, the top 100 is sorted by whoever has the most stars, and this could go to points toward BlizzCon. What do you think? And I'm just messing with Garrett. He's cool too. Oh, okay. All right, Kyle, I'm giving you your name back. All right. I'm very sensitive. I'm a sensitive, special little snowflake.
This is interesting.
I think having arena.
I
think like having arena feed directly into BlizzCon, which is not an arena tournament, is really weird and doesn't fit.
Well, if they had arena as a format in BlizzCon, then sure.
Well, yes.
Yeah. And I would love to see like over time, like Ratsma and Adwakta and Merps and Hafu and Crip and all these players who play tons and tons of arena. Essentially have like their own championship and they can compete and we could watch those games too. That would be interesting. I don't know though if I really feel like arena needs this. I like the arena tournament idea. I don't know if we need an arena ladder. It seems a little convoluted, especially if you try to make it kind of the same as the other version of the ladder. I think there's not really I can't go 1-to-1 with Arena to Constructed. They're just like totally entirely different things. Plus, it's like, okay, so I just was able to play Paladin, Mage, and Rogue the most, so that's why I'm at the top. Like, and the other guys are like, and then you never see Warrior ever because no one would ever pick it. At least now, sometimes people like to just YOLO pick Warrior just for fun. But if there's some sort of ladder reward to it, I don't know. Maybe that might never happen. So there's some pitfalls here, I think.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. So someone mark this on your calendar because we completely agree with Dills.
But you I think have made this point plenty of times that it's fun to watch all these different formats in Magic. That's why we want this arena tournament style thing, right?
Yeah.
And this would be cool to see at BlizzCon, the top arena players playing each other. The problem is like, how do you make that competitive in that, like, when it's like one draft versus one draft and one guy just gets a much better draft than, you need to have like a series of games that take some of the RNG and knock it down just a little bit, I think.
Well, I think that's part of the reason we haven't seen Arena kind of opened up to some type of fashion where we could actually host true arena tournaments, because that would open up a whole new can of worms, which is how do you tweak Arena to make it even better for a tournament environment. Personally, I think you'd have to allow some type of sideboard, which is currently impossible.
The extra picks and stuff like that, so you generally tend to have a deck of similar, similar power, I think is the way to go. But it's a cool idea, and an idea that we might see somewhere down the line is something more done with an arena in a competitive manner. Right now it is. It's you queue up one arena run, matters not for the next one, and you get your rewards and you move on.
Yep.
And I think that's fine and it's great, but there is a sense sometimes where I'm like, I'm doing all these arena runs. What am I getting out of it? I'm sure I'm getting these cards, and I'm building up dust, and I'm building up gold, but that's it. Like, that's all I can ever get from this. So sometimes that can get a little bit frustrating, and like what's the meaning of it all, man? Why do I keep doing these arena runs? So I get that feeling too, where maybe there'd be something else to make it feel a little bit more like it mattered each month.
Yeah. But I just got Arena on the brain, man, especially after Hearth Arena's overlay was released. We're having Walked On next week.
I still just love Arena. Like, this is one of the reasons why I think I'll just never get Legend, because I can't just sit there and just play Constructed the whole month. Like, I have to break it up with Arena, and I do. Like, I spend entire nights playing nothing but Arena.
Well, I mean, if you're okay just continuing to live your life like I am and be a total friggin' scrub at Hearthstone whose opinion doesn't matter. I'm sorry. That's just what Reddit always tells me.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with it. I've accepted my position in life.
Yeah. But anyway, Kyle, thank you for your email, man. I love hearing everyone's suggestions on what they'd like to see added or made better in Arena. I always find it really interesting, because it hasn't been tweaked. It's been more or less untouched since the release.
They made 9 wins to 12 wins, and then they've added new cards, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that is the end of it. And I definitely think there's room for improvement. I'd like to see some Arena tweaks. Maybe we'll see something at BlizzCon. Who knows? I'd love to.
I hope so.
Like,
I really hope so.
I don't think there's a lot that is up that like kind of up in the air that could be a surprise at BlizzCon. Like, we're going and we already know the World of Warcraft expansion. We already know the next few heroes and Heroes of the Storm. I'm sure we're gonna probably get a few more, previewed, but I'm not expecting to see anything that's gonna blow my mind there. And on the heroes front, Diablo's the big question mark at the moment. Maybe we'll see something. But I would love, we're expecting to see a Hearthstone adventure, but I would love to be surprised in them to kind of show, I don't know, some new system improvements, maybe some arena improvements, maybe Observer UI improvements. I'd love to see something like that and kind of be like, oh wow, we weren't expecting this.
Yeah, no, I think we're definitely due for some stuff like that, because while we've had expansions and stuff, we haven't really had any massive new features. We got Tavern Brawl obviously, but that was here's a casual thing for the casuals. And then outside of that, and new cards, like, there hasn't really been too much else. So it seems like it's time. I would not be surprised to see some really big announcements at BlizzCon.
I think however, I'm thinking this might be one of those slower BlizzCon years.
You think so?
I think so.
Yeah. I feel like there's going to be some. I mean, first of all, Overwatch is going to be like out soon. By the way, did you see they're going to have Thursday morning? I believe they're going to have an actual Twitch stream where people are going to be playing it.
Yeah, I'd be a lot more excited if I was one of those people. But,
sure, obviously, yeah. But
no,
but I mean, like
stoked.
it makes it feel like that beta is actually going to be here before BlizzCon to me, like right before, or right around. And there's just, I think that in itself is going to be exciting. And of course, like a lot of Legion talk, a lot of movie stuff. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
But this year might be more about the esports than any other year we've had previously.
I think so. Absolutely. Although last year, I mean, it was hard to top the kind of the reveal of the StarCraft stage. Like that just,
Yeah.
I'd never seen anything like that.
Just this year is like, now it's like Hearthstone's huge. Like right now it's like WoW Arena is the bastard stepchild of the Blizzard esports, right? Like all the other ones are kind of thriving in their own way. And not to put down WoW Arena, it's tough to watch if you're not in that scene.
Right.
Right.
I feel it's the most unfriendly to spectators.
Yeah, exactly. So, we're now moving into a situation where they may not need big announcements to make BlizzCon a big deal every year. It's just about the massive end of the year esports tournaments and all of their games that are now, giants in the esports world.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I don't want anyone to take these remarks as like me not being excited for BlizzCon. If they had nothing to announce, if they had no tournaments to showcase, I would still go just to hang out with everyone.
Yeah, just to hang out and like nerd out over Blizzard stuff.
It's
right?
such an insanely fun party for the whole weekend. So, I love it. Absolutely love it. So. I think that'll wrap it up for this week's episode. Thanks again to our patrons, patreon.com/TAC if you want to support the show. We're doing an extra episode a week and one more extra episode a month thanks to our patrons. So we owe you guys a lot. So thank you guys very much. Also,
9 shows a month. That is crazy.
It's a lot. It's a lot in a regular month. There's weird months where like an extra Monday gets slotted in and it's like, oh my God, 10 episodes this month. It's insane.
But we love it. We're so happy that you guys want to give the support to make that possible for us to do, because this is what we want to do, man.
It always comes back to those like first initial conversations about starting the show. It's like, what do we think? Like a Hearthstone show, like maybe twice a month? Yeah, there's not going to be that much to talk about.
6 months, and then we'll probably peter out, run out of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, there won't be that much to talk about. No way it could be a weekly show. Well, now it's a bi-weekly show. Thank you, Team 5 and patrons. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Also, if you listen to us on iTunes and you like the show, drop us a review. Helps the show out a lot. So this week, we'd like to thank the 10-Fingered Man, who
is like every other man.
Every other man, except people with unfortunate accidents.
Yep.
Casper the Ghost, not Ghost spelled incorrectly, so I'm going to call him Casper the Ghost.
Casper the Ghost.
Yeah. Thank you
right.
to Silent Robots. Thank you to Rapscallion, and thank you to Juggalo John.
Nice. Juggalo John, what's up?
He did mention in his review that he specifically loves that you continue to call Knife Juggler Knife Juggalo.
It's the Knife Juggler, man. It stabs people.
So now we know, Dills, you are directly responsible for at least one of our 5-star reviews.
Nice. I did it.
And last week,
I think, you know what? I think we need to get the Hatchet Juggler, which we will call the Hatchet Juggalo. That should be a card at some point. It's a 4/3.
Well,
it does 2 damage for everything. And it costs like 5 mana.
Well, unfortunately, Dills, we already have the Axe Flinger, and I think that might start to confuse people. But
Hatchet Juggalo, though.
Okay.
I really want
all right, fine. I'll give it to you. So, Angry Chicken is produced by amove.tv, Frogpan Studios, and our Patreon producers, Declan H., LVE, Topher L., and Barry Scott. Thank you, guys. All of our past live shows and other videos can be found on youtube.com/amovetv. Our t-shirt is on slashloot.com. We're on Twitter at TAC Podcast, on Facebook /amovetv, and at tacpodcast.reddit.com. We record the show live every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/amovetv, and also on alphageekradio.com. Also, check out briangriffithmusic.com. He made our intro music. I love it. We thank him for his help. Dills, where can folks find you?
Folks can find me on Twitter at Willie Dills. You can also check out my stream, which is twitch.tv/WillieDillsSF. I've been doing a lot of fun stuff on there lately, so I encourage anybody who hasn't checked me out to come do so. We Friday night did something called Whiskey Gamers, which ended with D-Day falling asleep on his stream. So suddenly I'm not the only one.
Yes.
It was quite magical, and I'm sure we'll do it again at some point. The Instance is also the World of Warcraft podcast. We do that on Friday mornings. That's with me, Scott, Terpster, and Patrick from France. And Stormcast is actually moving to Mondays after this show. So you can stick around after, Garrett and Jocelyn go to bed because they live on the East Coast. And stay up with me if you want to keep, hanging out and
what are
listening
you
to people
gonna
yap
do
your ears off.
when you're on? Well, not the East Coast, but damn near. What are you gonna do, sir?
Well, we're gonna move TAC forward a bunch, right? And then I don't know, it'll work out. When my job is just pretty much podcasting, I'm just gonna make it work.
We'll do it live.
Yeah, it's fine.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Everyone, you can find Jocelyn on Twitter at GISGamer and on the Gamers Inn on amove.tv. I can be found on Twitter at Garrett Art, or she's not at GISGamer anymore. She's at Joss Plays.
Yes, she is.
She hasn't updated her own stuff in the doc. How dare she? I'm on Twitter at Garrett Art. Again, reminder, there are 2 R's and 2 T's in Garrett. You will not find me if you type Garrett with 1 T. I'm also on nomoonart.com. That's my graphic design portfolio. I'm on Into the Nexus with Kyle Ferguson, talking about Heroes of the Storm. That's at amove.tv/ITN. And I'm on The Angry Nerd, talking to myself. amove.tv/Angry Nerd. Check it out. Our sponsors are doghousesystems.com, where you can use the code TAC to get a solid-state drive added onto your rig for free. Check them out. Use that code. And we will see you later this week for this week's Brawl episode of The Angry Chicken. Until then, job's done.
Job's done. Job's done. Yes!
Hype.